PlantWorx show at Newark Showground 2025. I've come out here to have a look around, see what's happening and changing with the industry, with diggers, dumpers and various attachments. Let's have a look around.
We don't talk anymore. We don't talk anymore. We don't talk anymore like we used to do. We don't laugh anymore. What was all of the fun? Oh, we don't talk anymore like we used to do. We don't talk anymore. We don't talk anymore. We don't talk anymore like we used to do. We don't laugh anymore. What was all of the fun? Oh, we don't talk anymore like we used to do. I just hope you're lying next to somebody who knows how to love you like me. There must be a good reason that you're gone. Every now and then I think you might want me to come show up at your door, but I'm just so afraid that I'll be wrong. I wanna know if you're looking into my eyes, just holding on to you so tight, the way I did before. I overdosed, should've known your love was a game. Now I can't get you out of my brain. Oh, it's such a shame. We don't talk anymore. We don't talk anymore. We don't talk anymore like we used to do. We don't laugh anymore. What was all of the fun? Oh, we don't talk anymore like we used to do. We don't talk anymore. We don't talk anymore. We don't talk anymore like we used to do. We don't laugh anymore. What was all of the fun? Oh, we don't talk anymore like we used to do. We don't talk anymore. We don't talk anymore. We don't talk anymore like we used to do. We don't laugh anymore. What was all of the fun? Oh, we don't talk anymore like we used to do.
These tilt rotators are so handy. I've never actually used them. The cost of them is astronomical, but if you've got the money, they're so worth it. I mean, look at what you can do. The attachments you can have. Flexibility of being able to just, well, you won't need a labourer to do so many jobs. You don't need your banksman with you quite as much either. Yeah. Well, we're trying. It's impressive. It's the ability to suddenly pick things up with those little pinchers as well. Something's in your way. I know it sounds daft, I'm not the sort of person that's worried about getting out the cab to go and move something, but some blokes are a little bit stuck to their seat. So that saved you going to the shed, going to get the whacker, and just so quick. I say, so they're a lot of money, but you've got the funds to kit the machine out with them, don't they? Pay dividends. good driver. Operator. I know some people get a bit funny about that. It's never ever bothered me what it's called. If the day rate's right, they can call me the C-bomb, I don't care. I know some blokes can be a bit funny about it, and girls. Not being sexist. Yeah, it's very impressive. I'm impressed with that. These look a handy little tool now with these graders on these track skid steers. Skid steers have come along leaps and bounds. They seem to go out of fashion a bit in the UK for a while, but there's really been a resurgence in them lately. You see a lot more of them, especially these attachments. See bobcats and little case uniloaders all over the place years ago, and then I didn't see so much of them only really with tarmacking gangs, but now they got them with the 4-in-1s and these tractor ones, which are much bigger and heavier. They really can move some muck and are brilliant at grading. Very handy. Always had a soft spot for cat. Very good tool. Costly, but they are worth the money as a rule. Nice to drive, good machines. Hold their money well, and they tend to be very reliable. Haven't driven the new generation, but yeah, it's a nice digger that is. I think if you turned up on site with that, you would end up being called Simba very quickly. I'm sure they've heard that joke 1,000 times, but it popped into my head, and I think it popped into 1,000 other heads as well the second they saw that. Long King.
Joe, you need to put the isolator key in it. Joe, you need the isolator.
These are Shanty, is it? Never seen these before either. Don't know if they're any good. I'll have a word to see what the price points are in relation to the more mainstream Japanese and European and American manufacturers. A lot more Chinese manufacturers, I'm guessing they're Chinese. I would have thought they are Chinese manufacturers coming over now. Just had a quick drive on this SE20 and the 3-tonner over there, 2.7 ton. Actually quite pleasantly surprised by these. For the price point, they're not a bad little digger. I've never even heard of them before, but you know, they're quite conscious of making sure that everything's quite right before they put it on sale. They were explaining about the new 6-tonner. There was a particular way they wanted it to feel in regards to the smoothness in and out, and they were hell bent on getting it that exact point, and Very impressed with these little machines. It's moving fast, the construction industry at the moment. It's not as stagnant as it used to be. There's only 4 or 5 key players, so yeah, it's good to see. Keeps everybody on their toes, keeps prices fair and even, and yeah, it's not a bad little digger that. Absolutely no idea Hyundai made dozers. Hyundai, whichever way you pronounce it. I did not know they made those. Smart looking little bit of kit that is. Nice compact dozer. $40 that's a decent sized machine. It's quite a smart machine these days, the Hyundai. Hyundai, whatever way you pronounce it. That's a nice size digger that is.
One of the biggest benefits of a tilter taker, and then to start, how much it saves you in terms of time and fuel. It saves you roughly 3 hours per day, a normal job, because you're not having to stuck around as much. And it will save you between 20 and 30% of your fuel saving. You may be looking at going, that's great for an EW100, I haven't got that. I've got a 21 tonner, 2 tonner, whatever it may be. We can work with any size machine that you see at PlantWorx. From 1.5 all the way up to a big Sammy's for 53 tonnes over the back. We have on our stand an iPad set up that will show you your real world savings. We're not just going to give you numbers and say, you will save 20 grand a year on your fuel for any machine, because that's not true. But for example, if you're running a 2-ton machine, you'll save about £3,000. If you're on a 6-ton machine, you'll save about £6,500. We can show you your real world savings, how much you save in fuel, time, money, and labour. final thing is, we as a company believe in local service. We believe that you should have someone you can speak to locally. We don't want you having to phone up a national number and sit in a call queue and be told this call's important to us whilst you listen to shocking holding it. We want you to work with local people. We have a map set.
Good to see them with 4-in-1s. These things are so handy if you've got an estate. Sometimes you just need a little bit of stone or some mulch, or take some rolls of turf or bags of cement. Take some sand and gravel with you. You don't want to take one machine and a dumper. Great little tools. Such handy little machines these are. That is well balanced, that's impressive. That was impressive. I don't know if the camera does the lean angle there justice, because if you tried that on a small dumper you'd have gone over on your side. Brilliant. Your more rudimentary basic Chinese mini diggers. Hey, if they work, they work. Better than a shovel. I would say personal opinion is nobody in the plant industry understood promotion quite like JCB. Instantly they stand out. Got into a lot of trouble here.
And this is a great game, guys, and it's all in supported by ambulance. So Flannery and Automotive movers, great
bits I like to see is a fully rebuilt, stored machine going back to work. So it's a D6N. It's 197k plus VAT. We've got a fully ready to go D6. Brilliant idea.